Recently finished the book Flint the King, which is one of the Dragonlance books from the Preludes series. I think it's book five in the overall Preludes series of six, or it's the second one in the second set of three. But it's interesting to me because Flint Fireforge is a dwarf. We've all known that. He's grumpy. We know that, but we don't really know, at least in the Kryn sense, a ton about dwarven culture. We get what we've kind of been given in the books, but up until this point, it wasn't really in depth. We didn't really get to see the dwarven homeland. We got to see the mountain, and that was part of it, but it was very brief. It was sort of a quick pass through. But this is Flint going home to visit his family and see what's going on in his village. So it's a little more in depth than what we've seen before. And it's interesting because to me, you got to see a lot about what really drives the dwarves, and more about Flint as a character and why is he sort of this reluctant hero. He's really more of a recluse. But you get to really understand why, where their love, how deep their love of crafting and creating things really goes. Why are these well-known craftsmen? And it's just built into their culture that they just kind of, that's what they do. They're so ingrained in it. But along the way, we find out that the Seekers, this religious group that claims to believe in the new gods, and if you give us enough donations or taxes or whatever you want to call it, the Seekers will make sure that the new gods take care of you and blah blah blah. And Flint's kind of skeptical of anybody who gives a mandatory donation kind of rule, and if you don't donate, it sort of it's not treated nicely. It's sort of enforced with these thugs who walk around accepting these donations from business owners, and business owners hate these guys, right? So it's interesting that Flint's motivation isn't necessarily driven by, hey, I got to go figure this out. I want to go see. He's kind of driven by, I'm kind of enjoying sitting at home by myself here, and I don't really want to go out and adventuring. I just like sitting around tinkering and whittling, and I'm just tired, right? He's old. He's a 140-year-old dwarf, which dwarves live longer than humans, so but still, that's ancient for a dwarf. He does run into another dwarf. He hasn't been around dwarves for years, so he runs into one while he's getting supplies, and through a little conversation, the other dwarf is telling about things going on in the dwarven homeland. And Flint's like, I gotta go check this out. Something's not right. There's something just not right um, about this. So he heads home, finds out his brother's been murdered, and that makes him really want to dig into, why are the dwarves changing their standards? Why is everything in my village changed? Why are we doing things differently than we've traditionally done them? And he's only been gone a certain number of years, right? So dwarves are very stubborn. They change very slowly. They don't like to have things shift. And what Flint finds is the world has gotten much different. It's so extreme that Flint Fireforge winds up working with other types of dwarves, including gully dwarves, which is always good for some comic relief. But I found the book really interesting in the fact that we really get to dive deep into him as a character and understand where his sort of reluctant hero thing comes from. He's not driven by becoming wealthy. He's not driven by becoming famous. He's driven by, hey, this is the way the world should work. And if it doesn't work the way I think it should, and he's a good guy, he's going to go off and try to do what he can to change it, and change it the right way, and not, change it by force, not change it by thuggery, change it by the way he feels it should be done. So I found it really interesting that we really got to dive deep into this character, and it made me like him even more than I did before. And he was one of my favorites. So it also gave me a chance to dig into a lot more of the dwarven personality, at least in Kryn and the Dungeons and Dragons sense. And it made me kind of look forward to the next time I play a dwarf, how I might play it a little differently than I have in the past. So if you're a Dragonlance fan and you haven't read this one, it's actually a very good one. It exceeded expectations. Some of the books in the series massively exceed expectations. Some of them are good. One or two of them not as great. This one really good. I enjoyed it. So if you haven't read it, pick it up. I think you will. Everybody have a great day.